Hi, my name's Dylan. I'm one of the software engineers at GitLab, and I'm interviewing Sid, our CEO, about software architecture and some of his thoughts on microservices trends and other things. So, Sid, can I ask you the first question, which is, what are your views on the industry trends regarding microservices architecture?
Yeah, thanks for doing this. And I think the trend is that we're getting more realistic about microservices. A couple of years ago, everyone was like, oh, everything should be as small as possible. Let's take our big app and split it up in 500 different microservices. I think the industry is seeing that doesn't work, but there's a clear benefit to microservices and like operational reliability and things like that. So it is now getting more popular, but without the extreme kind of patterns we saw earlier. So we're getting pragmatic about microservices.
And have you had previous discussions at GitLab about introducing microservices before, and in the past, what have been some of your thoughts on the issue?
Yeah, a couple of years ago when that phase was going on in the industry, like let's break everything up and make it 500 different services. Some people also at GitLab were excited about that. And I asked them to kind of reconsider and not do that and make sure that we have kind of a clear idea what we want out of splitting services off. By the way, GitLab is already kind of a services architecture. I'll share for a second kind of the different services that are involved in GitLab, but there's a huge list of different services that a complete GitLab installation has.
Okay, that makes sense. Do you have any thoughts about further microservices that you might want to break down GitLab into in future?
Yeah, I think let's talk about services instead of microservices, because micro has the connotation that you make them as small as possible, and that's not needed. But I do see a need for more services. I think one thing we're seeing is, for example, we're matching different kind of requests for CI job to the right runners. I think right now that process runs in Rails. You could argue that is something that should be highly performant, and very fast, and maybe that should be run somewhere else. Now, I think right now the bottleneck for that process is probably the database more than the service. But I don't have any in-depth knowledge, but I could see cases for things like that are very attractive.
That makes sense. So a lot of people at GitLab probably have the understanding that introducing more services at GitLab is something that's been very much discouraged from leadership for a long time, and people might have the impression that you would kind of in general just be blanket opposed to this change. But I wonder instead what you think about how you might like to see people make new suggestions about introducing services into the architecture or breaking parts of the monolith out.
Yeah, well, I'm not the directly responsible individual. So if you make a proposal for something, do it the way we always do it, either with an issue or a merge request with the code. And for merge requests, we'll follow our definition of done. And for issues, the product managers can opine, and probably they'll call in a few of our fellow and staff engineers to give an opinion. But one thing we always do at GitLab is we iterate. So doing something that's a whole ton of work and that requires everyone else to hold while you're doing that is probably not a good idea. So probably make it the smallest, let's not say micro, but the smallest possible proposal that it can be, and then build on that success to go further.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.